Hey guys, how's it going? Nash Warfield here with another episode of Significantly Square Leadership. And today I have the pleasure to be with Dr. David L. Heisey. Dr. Heisey is the principal of Scotch Plains Fanwood High School here in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. Dr. Heisey, thank you so much for being with us today. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Nishad.
Awesome. So, Dr. Heisey, tell me a little bit about your background, where you're from. What's been your path to Scotch Plains and being a principal here at the high school?
Yeah, okay, an interesting path. So I'm not originally from New Jersey. I grew up in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And
okay.
I went to high school out in the Pittsburgh area. I went to a local university, Indiana, University of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I was a major in history, political science, in education. So I knew pretty much from the start that I wanted to be a teacher, and did just that. Graduated from college and secured a teaching job in the Pittsburgh area, and did that for a few years. And while I was doing that, working on my master's degree, earned my master's degree in school administration, became an assistant principal at a high school in like the southeastern Pennsylvania, Lancaster County.
Okay, sure.
Became a principal in that same area, different school district, and gradually worked my way to Scotch Plains Fanwood High School. So I have teaching experience as an assistant principal, and then of course as a high school principal in two different schools. So it's been a great experience. I mean, every position I've held, I've loved, and I could probably have stayed there. I loved teaching. I was a coach.
Sure.
If I was still there today, I'd be very happy. I'm sure I would be.
Right.
But at the same time, with any occupation, you have, you're looking for additional challenges.
Sure.
And certainly I still do within this position. It's a very challenging position. I think the road that got me here has prepared me well for being principal of Scotch Plains Fanwood High School.
Yeah. Well, and just kind of aside, what do you think was it that originally attracted you to education? What was it about education that you enjoyed?
I think what attracted me to education is the fact that I loved school. So, I can remember my high school days in particular, because they're the most recent, prior to going to college.
Right.
And I enjoyed being in school. I had an outstanding experience. I had some outstanding teachers. It was just a comfortable environment for me. So when I began thinking about careers, the first thing that came to mind was I really enjoyed being in school.
Sure. I've
had some outstanding teachers, coaches as well. I did enjoy, I was an athlete. I played football. I wrestled. Then I ended up coaching both at the high school level. So that was another piece of the pie that, wow, I could teach and I could coach.
Right.
I could do the two things that are really that I'm most passionate about.
Sure.
I've loved history, political science. I can teach that. So, you put it all together.
It was just natural.
No wonder I had such a great experience teaching.
Right. Yeah, it's just a natural fit. Awesome. So obviously, a lot of people kind of say, oh, he's a principal. They pretty much think they know what a principal does, right? Well, what you're responsible for. So what would you say, are some responsibilities that a principal has that most people wouldn't think of, or they wouldn't really expect? Like, oh, I didn't know a principal did that. What would you say are some things that kind of stand out?
Yeah, there's quite a few things, because as a principal, most people would want to view you as an educational leader, that you're an academician, if you will. But I've certainly become an expert in in some cases heating and ventilation when it becomes becomes an issue.
Sure.
Or I've actually gone out there and I've showed a student how to properly park the car between two white lines. I've done that.
Some driving instruction, right?
Directed traffic.
I've
done that. And so those are just a couple of things that I can say. I don't know that I was necessarily prepared for it, but they come your way, and it's part of the job.
Yeah. Certainly wear many hats. My mom was a principal for 20 years at the elementary school level, so she kind of did it all. Served some lunch some days. Just kind of whatever it takes, right? Whatever it takes, definitely. They say heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Right.
For sure. Very cool. So obviously it kind of goes without saying that being a principal of a school, you have an impact on students every single day. One of the things that I was always kind of jealous of my friends who are teachers or in education is that they get to have that direct impact and have, people come back, Dr. Heisey, you made such a difference in my life, what have you. So as it relates to living a life of significance and making a difference in the world, like why, what does that mean to you to live a life of significance, and how do you look to make a difference in the world with the students that you serve?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I mean, I can't say that I wake up every morning with that question. What can I do to change to change the world, to
Right.
change our community, whatever the case is. I mean, sometimes I do, but that's not necessarily my driving force.
Mm-hmm.
If it happens, it happens, and it happens kind of by default.
Sure. Organically, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to, I mean, I do this because I love it. It's who I am. It's what I do.
Right.
It's part of me. If by chance I happen to make a significant change or have a significant impact on an individual,
Mm-hmm.
that's a bonus.
Yeah.
But it really is more a matter of, it's intrinsic in me.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of when I was a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
I loved teaching. I mean, I was in part doing it for selfish reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I love to do it.
Right.
I knew it's like any career. You do what you love,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really what I do now. And in so doing, if I do have an impact, a positive one,
Mm-hmm.
that's great.
Right.
That's a that's a bonus.
Sure.
Yeah.
Little bit of a curveball. I didn't say I was going to ask you this question,
Uh-huh.
but how long have you been a principal now?
I've been a principal here 17 years.
17 years, and
Yes.
before that.
Before that, I was a principal of a high school for 6 years.
Okay, so about 25 years you've been a principal.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So obviously technology has changed a lot in the
Sure.
last 25
Mm-hmm.
years. I mean, obviously 25 years ago, what was I doing? I guess I was in high school, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So how have you seen, technology really impact students, or have you seen, has it had a change on who students are and kind of what they do on a day-to-day basis, the influx of technology, or are high school kids pretty much high school kids no matter what time it is?
I mean, they're pretty much the same in terms of my interactions with young people today are very similar to what they were 20 years ago, and
Okay.
even prior to that when I was a teacher.
Right.
I think that technology has changed teaching. It's become the chalk of education, if you will.
Right.
So it has.
I like that. That's a good quote.
Yeah. I mean,
That's tweetable.
Yeah. There you go. I don't know that I'm necessarily the originator of that statement.
Right.
I know I've heard it or maybe read it somewhere.
Sure.
So how knowledge is conveyed,
Mm-hmm.
I think the old style of teaching was the teacher was the provider of knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and the students were the receiver.
Right.
Now it's a combination of students gathering knowledge, often using technology,
Sure.
and technology is an aid for that.
Mm-hmm.
I think communication has become faster. Life has been accelerated
Mm-hmm.
in terms of knowledge sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge sharing, it's increasing exponentially.
Right.
But in terms of what makes up an individual, a young person,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't, if anything, I've seen positive changes. I mean, I'm optimistic for the future of this country. Looking around, seeing
Right.
the young people that I work with here at this high school,
Right.
the young teachers, but also the students,
Okay.
and what they're interested in doing, and I'm like, the world's going to be a better place
Right.
because of them.
Yeah.
So,
Millennials get such a bad rap, for being they're lazy, they're
Right.
entitled,
Yeah.
but you're seeing something different. That's good.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Very cool. So obviously, that leads, right to, obviously, living a life of significance, making a difference, leads right to being a square. And I always talk about, a square having four sides. And I always like to ask, people who are in leadership positions and who serve roles as leaders, what would you say are the four most important values or qualities of an excellent leader? If you got, there are so many, but if you could kind of narrow it down to four, what would you say the four most important values of being an excellent leader? Because I mean, obviously, you work with so many, the students, the faculty, the parents, the community, the staff. How what really makes a great leader?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there are so many attributes. It's hard to narrow it down to just four. But I mean, for me, I think the first one would be knowing when to step in and knowing when to step back, or not step at all.
Okay.
So I think one job of a leader is to build leadership within your organization, and to not and to know when your leadership and authority is needed, but to also know and be self-aware as to when, it's not time for me, it's time for other people to exercise their leadership, and in so doing, you better the organization.
Right.
You better the school, and that could be students or teachers or members from the community.
Sure.
I think being an effective communicator is very important.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of being succinct, being clear in your expectations. There should be no ambiguity in terms of when you convey a message to a group of people or to a person. It should be very clear of what you're conveying to them.
Right.
So that's I think communication is important. I think the other thing that leaders can get caught up with is having too many initiatives, too many goals.
Mm-hmm.
I think a good leader focuses on a small number of goals.
Sure. Yeah.
And kind of zeroes in on those goals.
Right. The school year is only so long. You only have so much time to kind of get stuff done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's kind of like what's more important, to do some things superficially,
Mm-hmm.
or to do many things superficially,
Right.
versus some things very well.
Right. Exactly. Sure.
And then I think as a leader, you learn this, and a lot of it is emotional intelligence, but having empathy. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
being able to put yourself in another person's shoes, even though you've never been there.
Right.
Making an attempt to do that, knowing that you can never fully do that,
Right.
but trying to.
Mm-hmm.
And if you try to, you get yourself, sometimes it's only halfway there,
Right.
but you can get yourself there, and I think you become a better leader when you can see the world through different lenses, not just your own.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds good. Well, definitely, it clearly, the passion comes through, that you have for education, and certainly, for what you do, and certainly, Scotch Plains is such a great high school here, and you guys are doing such great things, and it really starts from the top. So it really speaks to, your leadership and the person you've been here, such an institution, I mean, and I can only speak from my own experience. I went to Plainfield High School, which is right next door,
Mm-hmm.
and we had 4 principals in 4 years.
Wow.
I mean, and even since I've left, there have just been, just a rotation of leadership, and you can never really have a strong school when you've got leaders kind of turning over like that. So even talk a little bit about that, like how important has that consistency been been to you?
It's been very important, and that is an element that was here long before me.
Mm-hmm.
So the individual, Dr. Regal, who retired, and I took his job, I took his role.
Sure.
He was my predecessor.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he was principal here for close to 30 years.
Wow.
So and before him, I think it was another individual, Robert Adams and Perry Tyson. So
Mm-hmm.
in a span of maybe 50 years or so, there have been
like 5
4 or
principals,
maybe
yeah.
5 principals.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, and it definitely makes a difference. It definitely makes a difference when you have that kind of consistency. So,
For sure.
So thank you so much, Dr. Heisey, for
my
all that
pleasure.
you've been and the person that you've been and continue to be. A fantastic leader and making a difference in the lives of so many students. I know they really appreciate it. So.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Good seeing you.
Thank you. So once again, Nash Warfield here with another episode of Significantly Square Leadership with the great Dr. David Heisey. Actually, if you're ever in Scotch Plains, you might see him running. He does a lot of running around the community. I've seen you running. So he definitely keeps himself in shape as well. So I encourage you to be a square, make a difference, live a life of significance. See you next time.